Hello and welcome to RiceChrispy Yaps. It's where I talk about anything and everything art related and unrelated. Today we're talking about the Ohuhu Markers. They're alcohol based markers. Before we get into the review, I just want to say I am not sponsored. I bought this with my own hard earned money. I can only find these on Amazon. I couldn't find any local art store that would supply these. And I think they're cheap but hold a lot of volume. They're awesome. They're bold and very high quality. Hey, it's Editing Chris here. I'm just gonna be voiceovering this blend here just to save time. All you really need to blend alcohol markers is a dark tone, a mid tone, and a light tone. So as you can see here, I'm laying down the light tone towards the left. Make sure it's nice and saturated. And what we're laying out this ink on is just construction paper. And then we're going to take our dark tone all the way to the right. And as you can see, alcohol markers does take layers to build up. You have to go over there repetitively. And we're leaving space in the mid-tone on purpose. And we're going to literally make another square and just go all in. Just go crazy and blend all those inks together. The reason why we're doing constant strokes is to activate the alcohol in the ink so they can start blending. You can see we're starting to get that mid-tone to blend. To get the mid-tone to the light tone, you're going to take your lighter color and just run it over there. Sorry for the bad angle. I'm only working what I have around here. So then you're going to do the opposite to the dark side. Just blend it in through the middle, and it's gonna pull that there. We're taking the mid-tone to the dark side, dark tone. So that's basically it though. You're gonna have to play with it and see where it lands, but that's a basic demo of blending. And I'm gonna go back in just to blend out that darker line. You could do this as many times as you need it. The rendering is awesome. The nice thing about alcohol markers is that you get a lot of color out really quickly. Compared to paint, you'd have to build layers and layers upon just to get this much saturation. So that's the nice thing about alcoholic markers. But yeah, that's a basic blend demo test. So before we go on to the pros and cons of the review, I want to show you a few of my portraits that I've done with these Ohuhu markers. I used Ohuhu markers, and then for the liner, for the black lines, I use either a dip pen with black ink or a felt tip marker, like a Pigma Micron. And I really do love the quality of these. And if you want a tutorial on how to do these alcohol marker portraits, please leave a comment below to let me know that you are interested. And now on to the pros and cons. Okay, so for the Ohuhu markers, the pros that I find that win you over is that they're very cheap, they're very affordable. I bought 3 of these right here, as you can see. I first had the 48 color one, and then I got a 36 colors skin tone, and then a 36 color grays. At the time of me buying it, the 48 color marker was $35.99. The gray and skin tone were both $39.99. Now this obviously changes because Amazon prices and listings always change on the daily. I think that's great value for money. All those colors right there, they're roughly $1.10 or 75 cents per marker. So very cheap for how many markers you get. In comparison to something like the Copic Chow, I've never used Copic before, mostly because they're really expensive. So a 12 pack of Copic markers, at least for me at the time of this recording, I saw an Amazon listing was $46.80. You divide that is $3.90 per marker. So that's a huge difference between the Ohuhu and the Copics. One other pro I find is that the Ohuhu markers are very vibrant. They're very in your face, unapologetic, and I think that's a great thing. You know, you don't want always a big bland tone, a big matte tone. And another thing I found is that they're great at blending. I've used other alcohol markers that I found at like Walmart or Michael's that are cheap intentionally, and the felt tips on them, either the ink or the felt tip, it just didn't feel right, or maybe the combination of both. But these always blend buttery smooth for me. And another thing is that the markers here, they have a lot of options like color sets, different tips, and that's great for whatever artist you're looking for. For me, I mostly primarily focus on portraits, but you know, they got fun sets like that you can pick up at the get-go. Unlike Copic, you got a Chow set, or you know, it's very limited color, but they got a huge range of colors for Ohuhu, which is kind of a con, which I'll get to that in the con section. But yeah, I genuinely enjoy these a lot. Alright, for the cons for the Ohuhu markers, the one thing that I had a huge learning curve is that the color system is not intuitive. They wouldn't have a linear listing of colors. It'd be either from a warm set to a cool set, and it wouldn't list numbers specifically. It would jump into gaps, and that's what's kind of annoying. Let me grab one right here. Let's see this. There we go. So if you look here, the yellows, it goes from 4 to 9 to 12 to 13 just on the top row, and you get more yellows of 121, 145, the yellow red 1, yellow red 5. It's just not a linear number. I want something that has easy to read and easy to use. And honestly, a lot of my portraits that I worked on, I kind of had to guess what was what and what wasn't. And some of these colors are very, very analogous, and it's kind of hard to work with. So that's one big con. I wish they had a better coloring system. This is not user-friendly at all. You just kind of have to test and experiment. Hopefully you don't mess up. Another thing is that they don't have a lot of midtones. Just look at the skin set here. This is specifically for the skin set. Just from the top row, like I showed you earlier. Come on, focus. There we go. So the top row, as you see, from Y4 to Y9 to Y12. What about the other Ys? Like, I want Y5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 9. That's what I'm talking about. These midtones, maybe they exist in the bigger color set, but I don't want to. I shouldn't say I don't want to. I didn't want to spend that much money for their more complete set. And I still think it's awesome money, awesome value for your money, but it's just very confusing. Especially, this is the first time I actually took alcohol markers seriously as a learning tool. Another con that I found is that the ink runs out quickly, at least for my use. I primarily just do portraits. I do it on Bristol board, and I know Bristol board's a lot more absorptive than most other paper. So your mileage may vary. After about 2 or 3 portraits, my ink was starting to run low, and I do know that they do refills. I try to look on their website to see if I can get the specific color. I love the light tones, just to lay down the light colors of the portraits, but obviously I use those the most, and then they get used up a lot, and now they're bone dry, almost. And yeah, one last thing is that, just like I said in the pros, is that they have a lot of variety. On Amazon, they have a bunch of listings. Like, they got different tips, different color sets, different numbers. They got jumbo pack, they got water based, and they have alcohol based, which primarily, if I want to use something illustrative, I think alcohol based is better because alcohol colors don't pull and tear the page as much as water based. So that's the confusing part. Really do your research for these Ohuhu markers and look at the Amazon listings. You really have to look at it. They have a lot, which I guess is good because there's a lot of variety for you to choose from. But make sure you buy the right one. So who is this for? I think the Ohuhu markers are for people who want to learn alcohol marker and the blending. The skill floor for alcohol markers, I'd say, is kind of high to the middle range. It took me a while of experimenting and being scared because you have to commit to, hey, I know this is ink and it's gonna just be ink. And in my mind, it's like, if I mess up, I mess up. But in all honesty, if you know the medium and you know how to work it, alcohol markers is kind of forgiving. The thing is, because alcohol-based ink is that it can live colors, it can blend. Even if it's completely dry, you still have a lot of flexible room. And another thing to note is that the alcohol ink dries lighter. I know some other art mediums, it's the opposite, like acrylic paints. Those dry darker. What I've seen in these alcohol markers, they dry lighter. Mostly because when you put it on the page first, you see the alcohol saturating the page, and it looks darker. So as the alcohol evaporates, it'll make the color lighter. So that's the learning curve, and I understand if you don't want to spend the $40+ for Copic colors and feeling like you messed up and feeling like a fool because you don't know how to use them. And I think these are great entry level, and anybody of any skill level can use these at any skill. Also keep in mind, I've never used Copic markers before, mostly because of the price. A very premium price for Copic markers. One day I wish I will. That day may not be soon. So would I recommend these Ohuhu markers? And the answer is an astounding yes. The tools don't make the art, the artist makes the art. Don't ever think that if you're using cheaper tools or tools that are rough to use, that shouldn't discount how valuable your art is. Anybody with the skills can make a beautiful piece of art, no matter what they're using. And the odd numbering system, you get over it. I got used to it. As you can see in the portraits, I got used to it. And I guess one tip is like really have just a scratch piece of paper on the side to just to test the blend. Because the point of these swatches here, let me grab this one right here. The point of these swatches here is that you can tell how these dry up on the paper. But you got to understand that the paper also takes the color in differently. This is construction paper. So what I primarily use for, at least for gifts, are Bristol board. So the color saturation may be different. I would not recommend copy paper. That's too thin. Just construction paper is perfect. If you're practicing, copy paper and sketch paper will be fine. But construction paper is good. If you have the money, use Bristol board instead, because it's just thicker. And your sketch pad paper, some of them have I know some of them have the all medium type. I would avoid those. Just go with construction paper, because the all medium, all purpose sketchbook paper it just sucks it up too much. And I find that the alcohol just splays out and it looks all weird. It doesn't look nice and crisp. Yeah, you can get over that odd numbering system. And if you were to buy a set, I recommend you buying the brush tip, because the brush tip here, it just gives you a lot more control. As you can see, it's literally just a brush. I think they sell more than two, but the most ones I look at is, you always get this chisel tip here. This chisel tip's awesome, covers a lot of area with little effort, and you can get some fine tip area depending on how you angle it. And then you get a specialized tip. You either have a bullet tip or a brush tip. And this brush tip is a lot better because it spreads out more, you have more control, and it blends easier. The bullet tip is just basically, think of a Sharpie tip, not the fine tip marker. Think about like a regular Sharpie and then the fine tip, and it meets in the middle. That's what I'm talking about, bullet tip. So it's good for fine, tight areas, but you're just better off with this brush. This brush is friggin' awesome, dude. It's great. Yeah. So yeah, I 100% recommend this. Definitely worth your money. Definitely worth your time. Thank you for watching RiceChrispy Yaps. You guys have a lovely day.